Hi everyone, I'm Thea, and today I will be talking about my pilot study for the research topic Identification and Analysis of Viable Initiatives to Transition Oslob, Cebu, Philippines Whale Shark Tourism Towards Sustainable Development. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that Royal Roads University and its campus are located on the traditional lands of Esquimalt and Songhees ancestors and families, who have lived here for thousands of years. So it is with gratitude that we now learn and live here. Let's start with the purpose of my research. This study aims to explore and understand the impacts of provisioning on the host species, the whale sharks, and to gain more insights and identify initiatives to aid Oslob whale shark watching activity to promote sustainability. This endeavor may allow the destination to find a good balance where tourism can flourish while ensuring that the marine biodiversity is not being compromised, ultimately facilitating informed management decisions so as not to discredit the economic importance of the said activity. In preparation and planning for my pilot study, I used the textbook Real World Research by Robson and McCartan 2016 to gain insights into the research process. This, along with other articles, aid my understanding of the research method that best suit my chosen topic. Then I conducted a search for a literature review. This provided me with a good background and helped formulate the research questions. I also looked back on the feedback from both instructor and classmates to see any improvements I could still make to the research design. Also, the class time helped with real-life practice of focus group question creation, facilitation, and discussion. Moreover, I familiarized myself with ethical considerations, including informed consent, and learning about anonymity and confidentiality to ensure that my research participants can be well informed and understand what they consent to. Lastly, I designed the focus group questions and created a checklist and program flow before conducting the focus group. Moving on, these are the 3 guiding research I used in drafting the proposal and questionnaire. This, however, is not in alphabetical order, so in this presentation, I have arranged the articles I used in a way that guided my thought process. First is A Guilty Pleasure, Tourist Perspective on Ethics of Feeding Whale Sharks in Oslob, Philippines, by Ziegler et al. 2018. This article raised ethical questions concerning whale shark provisioning. This paper mainly explores tourist considerations in patronizing such unsustainable practices. The study shows that tourists know of the poor and unethical practice according to their rationales. Therefore, this study is significant to acquire insights into the tourist point of view in awareness of animal welfare concerns. Next is The Changes in Diving Behavior and Habitat Use of Provisioned Whale Sharks, Implication for Management, by Araujo et al. 2020. This study provided context for the subject by describing observed behavioral, habitat use, and fitness challenges caused by whale shark provisioning. This research is also discussed in ecosystem-wide effects of human-shark interactions. It is a prudent approach to gain an understanding of the concerned marine life, and it's deemed beneficial in developing guidelines for sustainable tourism initiatives. Lastly, Responsible Shark and Ray Tourism, A Guide to Best Practice by Lawrence et al. 2016, in collaboration with WWF or World Wildlife Fund. They have published a comprehensive handbook on the ethical shark and ray tourism. This research is essential since WWF is one of the most well-known and respected non-government organizations dedicated to preserving threatened environments, conserving endangered species, and combating climate change via science-based conservation. This handbook can help operators create shark and ray tourism that is safe, sustainable, and conservation-minded by employing the most up-to-date science-based solutions. I decided to use focus group in a participatory action research setting, as I would like to influence change in the destination and the local community behavior. For development projects like this one, this approach is quite beneficial as it can also be used to present data collection results to the community and co-create solutions with them. However, I do understand the complexity of my chosen method. I may only be able to materialize this in the real world if I get a local community invitation and solid support. Yet, as a Filipino who studies sustainable tourism, I find that this is a pressing issue, and a call for the community to action is very urgent. To do this, ideally, the participants will be the Oslob Philippines community members. For this pilot study, I did a small-scale test of the focus group within the participatory action research. I have invited 3 participants with the following description. One is a sailor from Visayas region, which is where Oslob is. Another one is an environmental sustainability volunteer. And the last one is an ex-tourism office employee in the same region. I used thematic analysis to analyze the data, as this is what I'm most comfortable and familiar with. I did it in a way that I transcribed the recordings and identified the major themes and interpreted them. We will discuss the findings briefly in a later slide. My research questions revolve around understanding the concept of provisioning of whale sharks and its effects on the host species. The questions also explore the current practices in Oslob whale shark watching activity and what sustainable practices can be applied to the destination to facilitate sustainable tourism development. Let's go through the focus group questions first so the findings can make more sense later. I have divided the questions into 2 parts, opening and main focus group questions. My opening questions focus on their personal experiences in participating with the said whale shark watching activity. Then it progresses to the main focus group question, which digs deeper to the participants' view on wildlife provisioning and how it affects the host species' well-being. I also wanted to look at the community's perspective if they think that the activity should be transformed to a more sustainable one. And if they do think that sustainable shift is needed, this question is then followed by what types of sustainable practices can they suggest. And since my methodology involves participation, I did add a question in the end asking what could motivate the community members to practice these suggestions. Now, let's go through the process involved in my pilot study. Before the focus group discussion, I decided to reach out to the people I know who can best represent the participants I wish to have in the actual study, who are the community members. Then I proceeded to invite them and send them consent forms. Afterwards, I set up the focus group. This includes setting the date and time which works for everyone. And in this case, it is 7th of July at 8 p.m. And the best venue and tool is online by using Zoom. During the focus group discussion, I started with the research and researcher introduction to let the participants know about the goals of the meeting. Then I set ground rules and managed their expectations, specifically letting the participants know that currently this is only for data collection purposes and that I am not affiliated with any institution in Oslob. I also allotted some time for participant introduction to break the ice. Then I started with the discussion proper. I could not use a tool to transcribe due to the tool limitation as we used the Filipino language. I only recorded the meeting and noted the participants' contributions. Then I used theme analysis to cluster similar themes in groups. It is indeed difficult to moderate this focus group while taking notes in between. So halfway through, I've decided to just take notes later once I listen to the audio recording. I gave more attention to the meeting and observed group dynamics instead. Also, I did not anticipate that many follow-up questions from both participants and researcher sides would be made throughout, but this made the flow more organic and smooth. Let's now move to the findings. I'll read you some quotations I've extracted and translated from the audio recordings. To start, some sort of consensus was made when one of the participants mentioned that they know that whale sharks are endangered in the Philippines. They also often hear criticisms about practices, especially from international organizations. For sustainable practices, some suggestions were to increase the human-shark distance to more than 3 meters. Also, to decrease the number of boats and their carrying capacity, as they currently employ 8 boats with 50 people in total in one go. They also received some remarks from tourists saying that they had a better and more natural whale shark encounter in Leyte, another island in the Philippines. They are also open to seeing what is done there and if there's something that they can apply to their destination. One also made a note not to forget the economic benefit brought to the community, especially to the fishers and their families. Lastly, they know that they can commit to the sustainable practices if alternative livelihood programs exist. They mainly do this activity for monetary purposes, and whale shark provisioning guarantees marine life sighting, thus attracting more tourists. Although, they were more concerned with the fishers' families, especially regarding their daily survival and sending their kids to school. So, what worked in this pilot? Using the Filipino language to get as many responses as possible has been beneficial, since the participants were more comfortable using it. It was also effective that I used heterogeneous focus group in this small-scale test, as it represented the different community sectors. Therefore, I could get multiple views on the topic. It also enables social learning, which is shown when one participant introduces an idea and it creates new ideas in other members' minds. Now, what did not work? There is undoubtedly some form of group pressure, as I would sometimes get the impression that participants may not express 100% true points of view and are more susceptible to just providing socially acceptable answers. However, in a group setting, I do not think that this will be completely avoided. Therefore, I would consider doing a homogeneous one first before having a heterogeneous focus group to build up their comfort levels. Furthermore, it appears that main questions 1 and 2 are overlapping. Also, the online setting hinders the participation and observation of group dynamics. Therefore, in the actual study, I will definitely practice more and have some proper training on focus group facilitation and refine the questions. I also think that setting up a traditional focus group instead of an online one will be the most effective, especially to see the participants' nonverbal cues and community members may not have access to strong internet connection. So when scaling up this study, I will need to do more steps in ethics approval department. Also, securing funding and sponsorships will be necessary as this venture can be costly, especially with having focus group discussion as the chosen data collection method. Then, as I've mentioned, this study completion greatly depends on the local community support. So if I happen to get invited to the destination to conduct this research, I will definitely be consulting with the community members on the right way to proceed with the study. Also, with the bigger groups, I may need to start with homogeneous focus group first to see how participants interact with each other before inviting a heterogeneous one. This is after consulting with the community members, only if they are comfortable with it and if they deem it to be a valuable step. Then, as advised by multiple pieces of literature, I will need to develop 4 to 6 focus groups to build the credibility and evidence of the data and the theme. Finally, to reflect on the whole process, personally, I realized that there is a lot of room for improvement, especially with the focus group moderation. Also, the more I learn about my chosen topic and how much it affects the whale sharks and the thought that this activity might just lead to this wildlife extinction, this thought makes my passion for this topic of sustainability grow, and I am keen to influence change. This, with the help of the local community, can ensure that they thrive in a healthier coexistence with the whale sharks. As for the method, I believe that this is the most suitable for the research topic and research questions. However, as I've mentioned previously, there is also a need to do multiple focus group discussions, which means that this method can really be time-consuming and costly. Lastly, for the research topic, it is alarming how people, both tourists and organizations conducting the activity, are very much aware of the harmful effects brought to the endangered species. Yet, this activity still shows no sustainable transformation over the years. Therefore, there is really a need to bring the local community, especially with the help of the government, to influence broader scale and lasting change. That is all for my presentation. Thank you all for your attention and your support.